Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about the Elite Squad, the chosen ones, the books that somehow made it into my 5-star club because we are very selective. These are mystery and thriller novels that even if I read them years ago, I still think about them to this day and think about them often. So let's get into it. The first book, And Then There Were None. This one is about 10 strangers who get invited to a private island. They don't even know who the host is and they're trying to figure it out. But they're accused of doing pretty terrible things. These people have horrible secrets. And then they all start dying off one by one. No one can trust anyone. Everyone's accusing everyone. They don't know who's doing this. It's a classic. It's Agatha Christie. I believe this is the first Agatha Christie novel that I read. I read it in the 8th grade. And it was my first introduction into adult mystery because before that I was reading like The Adventures of Mary-Kate and Ashley. And Then There Were None is a peak classic mystery. I mean, Agatha Christie is the queen, and I think this is her most popular novel. Next, we have Falling by T.J. Newman. Now, in this book, we are following a captain who is flying, I believe, from San Francisco to New York, and a little bit into the flight, he finds out that his family has been kidnapped, and the only way to save them is to crash the plane with everyone on it. So him and the rest of the flight crew, the first officer and the flight attendants, are trying to figure out how they're going to do this, how they're going to keep everyone alive but still save his family. It is a very wild ride. If you are not a fan of flying or you have fear of flying, I do not recommend that you read this, but everyone else, please read this. I actually have a pretty personal connection to this book because I used to be a flight attendant and this book came out when I was still flying, and the author is also a former flight attendant. I think I read this on the jump seat, which is crazy. It's crazy to read about your worst nightmare at work while you're at work. Like, that's something you probably shouldn't do. It's very unhinged of me, but I enjoyed the pacing of this book, the tension, the characters felt very authentic, and I was comparing them to people who I met along my flight attendant journey. I was shoving this into every flight attendant's hands, or at least threatening them to read this, and I was like, if you don't read this, I'm going to lock you in the lab or something. This is such a good book. Now the next one is another banger by T.J. Newman, which is Drowning. Now I think I read this one shortly after I stopped being a flight attendant. This one is about a flight that crashes into the ocean and the rescue mission. The water is rising and they're trying to get these people out of here. This one kind of scared me. I'm not gonna lie. I've never had a fear of flying, but this one made me think twice about flying across water. I don't know, it really spooked me, especially at first. It seemed so real. The part where they're actually crashing and the instructions that they're given, those are like the real life instructions that flight attendants would give in that scenario. And I was just like, oh, this is feeling a little bit too realistic. After a certain point, I was able to be like, okay, this seems more like fiction. I was kind of eased by that, but definitely another 5-star for me. Number 4 on the list is Razorblade Tears by the great S.A. Cosby. I mean, his writing is phenomenal. In this book, we are following 2 fathers. One is black, one is white, and they're having to team up to avenge the murder of their gay sons. Their sons were married to each other, and they have to kind of put their biases aside to work with each other and even deal with their biases they had against their sons. They weren't even talking to their sons before they passed because they didn't agree with them being gay. And this was such a dark, gritty, violent thriller. I love the social commentary on race and sexuality in this. This is such a well-written book, and I'll read pretty much anything that S.A. Cosby writes. Next up on the list is The Ivies by Alexandra Donne. This is a YA thriller, and this follows a group of 5 girls who are pretty desperate to get into these Ivy League schools. That's what their whole life has been about, getting into an Ivy League school. And this includes everything that you want in a YA thriller that is in an academic setting. There's cheating, there's sabotage, and there's murder. I love a good private school, rich kid mess of a story. I was so obsessed with books like Pretty Little Liars, The Clique, the A-List, the Private series, books like that. When I was a teenager, I was obsessed. I did not go to a rich private school, so seeing their drama and their mess was just so entertaining for me. Any murder mystery that includes teenagers that are rich and at these elite schools is for me. Next is a crime classic, The Godfather. Now, if you haven't heard of The Godfather by now, I don't know where you've been. You either were just born or you've been hiding under a rock for the past few decades. In this book, we follow this crime family as, power is shifting from father to sons. Somehow the son who wants nothing to do with it gets pulled in much deeper than what he wanted to. I have an obsession with mafias, organized crime. The Godfather is a classic. I mean, just read it. The movie is stellar, but the book is better. So please, if you haven't read the book, I suggest reading the book and then watching the movie right after. That's what I did. Next is Finlay. Donovan is killing it. I don't have the first one, but I have the second one here for some reason. I feel like I have almost all of them except for the first one. I may be missing the last one, but I just have like the ones in between, which is really odd. But in this series, you're following Finlay Donovan, and in the first book, she is recently divorced. She's a struggling author. I think she has a book that is past due to her agent and publisher. So she meets with her agent at Panera, and they're talking about her book, which involves a hitman. And someone is overhearing their conversation but comes in at the wrong point. So they think Finlay is a hitman and they set out to hire her. It's like a cozy mystery, but has a little bit of more darker themes than the average cozy mystery. And it has the humor to go along with it. I don't mind cozy mysteries, but once you add humor into it, I'm even more invested than I was when I first picked it up. This is cozy with a little bit of chaos. So I enjoy the Finlay Donovan series, but the first book is definitely a 5-star. Up next on the list is Who is Ma Dixon by Alexandra Andrews. We are following Florence, who is a low-level employee in publishing, and she's also an aspiring writer. She gets this opportunity to be the assistant to Ma Dixon, who is a well-known author, but actually no one knows who she really is. She's writing under this pen name and no one's ever met her. Even her publisher, they've never even seen her. They go on this trip together and they get into a car accident. Florence wakes up in the hospital and Ma Dixon is nowhere to be found. I devoured this book. I mean, go into it blind. Do not read the synopsis. I've told you just enough for you to go into the story. Don't read the synopsis. Just read it. We have The Passengers by John Mars. This is more of a sci-fi thriller, and this is about 8 people who are in these self-driving cars that get hacked and are set to crash into each other. The hacker is broadcasting this all over social media, on TV. It's everywhere, and the public gets to decide who lives. This book made me not want to get into any self-driving car ever. I mean, I wasn't a fan of them when they first came out, but I definitely don't want to be in them because this is crazy. And this book explores what happens when you build technology with biases and prejudice built in. We have another John Mars on the list, The Good Samaritan. This book was so unhinged and so disturbing. We're following Laura, who works at a suicide hotline, so she's supposed to be talking people off the ledge. Instead, she's convincing them and helping them actually go through with it. It is so crazy. I listened to this on audio, which I normally don't do. I don't usually like audiobooks, but I was hooked. Next, we have The Quiet Ones by Brandon Massey. Now, this is about Mallory. Her and her sister, when they were kids, were put into foster care and they were split up, so they lost contact with each other. And now Mallory is an adult, she's an investigative journalist, and she is on the hunt to find her sister. She comes across a very strong lead, and she drives to this town to find her sister. And she ends up at this place called the Sanctuary, and they're calling this man their father. It's giving cult vibes, and your girl loves a good cult. It was such a thrilling story. I believe this was marketed to me as a horror novel, but it felt more like a thriller to me. You're going along this journey with Mallory to uncover the secrets, figure out what happened to her sister, how her sister got to the sanctuary, and why she's still here. This story did test my patience because Mallory was getting on my nerves. She really was. But I remember I read this at 4:30 in the morning. Why? I think I woke up in the middle of the night and was like, I can't go back to sleep. Let's read a book. And yes, at 4:30 in the morning, read it straight through in one sitting. I really love Brandon Massey. I've read a few of his books. He's someone that I never hear bad things about his books, so I'm always willing to read them. The next two on this list is the Vera Wong series, so both books in the series by Jessie Q Sutanto. I love Vera Wong so much. In the first book, we're following Vera Wong, who is a little old lady who owns a tea shop and she lives right above it. She's kind of lonely. Her son doesn't really come around that much, but she's always harassing him to figure out when he's getting married and when he's going to give her grandchildren. And one day she goes down into her tea shop and there's a man in there dead. And for some reason, Vera Wong thinks that she can solve this mystery herself. She does call the police, but she's like, I'm going to solve this for myself, and they're useless. And the way she inserts herself into this investigation, the police are just like, girl, give it a rest. It is so funny. She is the old lady that I want to be when I grow up. In this book, they do talk about food a lot because she's always cooking for the characters. Both times that I've read these books, I found myself ordering Chinese food while I'm reading because the talk about the food makes me so hungry. Next up on this list is The Odds by Jeff Strand. Now this is more of a horror thriller. It feels like Squid Games and Saw had a baby. This book, you're following, I believe his name is Ethan, and he goes on a trip to Vegas, and while he's there he gambles. He has a gambling problem and he pretty much squanders all of his money. He leaves the casino thinking, what am I going to tell my wife, and I have a child to think about as well. So he's a little bit stressed, but as he's leaving the casino, a man approaches him and was like, hey, do you want to play a game? And if you watch Saw, you know how that ends. So he tells him, you have a 99% chance of winning $10,000. On the off chance, the little 1% that you don't win, we're gonna crush your left arm. And he's like, what? But the guy convinces him because he says you have 99% chance to win this $10,000 and you need it, right? So Ethan, of course, he wins his $10,000 and then he thinks he's gonna go about his life. Then he's pressured to keep playing, and eventually the consequences get crazier and crazier. The chances get slimmer and slimmer. There was so much tension in this book. Every time he got to another game, I was on the edge of my seat trying to figure out if this would be the end or if he's actually gonna win, and I want to see if he was gonna win the whole game. And then we have Dark Matter by Blake Crouch, and this is more of a sci-fi thriller, and I believe this is the first Blake Crouch book that I read. This is about a man who goes on a walk late at night. He's going to get ice cream for his wife and his son, and in the process he is kidnapped and he's injected with some drug. He goes unconscious, and when he wakes up he's in a totally different life and he doesn't really understand who he is, and he's trying to figure out who the person he was before. I think this book is the one that really got me into sci-fi thrillers and wanting more of that, you know, genre blend. I have been trying to find books like this ever since. Anytime I see something about time travel, alternate realities, I'm here for it. This book was such a mind bend. Like I felt confused, but in a good way. Like I felt like I was just as confused as he was, and so that I felt like I was in the book with him trying to figure this out. And last but certainly not least, probably my favorite book, I mean hands down favorite thriller of all time, Look Closer by David Ellis. In this book, we're following what seems to be a normal couple, Simon and Vicky. Simon is a law professor and Vicky is an advocate for domestic violence victims, and they seem to have a normal life. But when a socialite in some fancy neighborhood is found hanging, it starts to uncover some lies about Simon and Vicky. Are they lying to each other? Are they lying to other people? It is full of lies, it is full of twists, and it makes you realize how exhilarating playing the long game is. And this book was a little long, but I didn't feel it. I noticed that it was long, but it didn't feel like, oh my gosh, when is this going to be over? It felt like, oh my gosh, I need to find out how this ends. I felt like I was in a tornado, just twisting and turning everywhere. It was crazy. But I think this is my favorite book. I think about this book every single day. And as many times as I've heard people talk about this book, I've never heard anyone say anything bad about it. Like everyone loves this book. So if you haven't read it, you need to read it. Have some patience if you don't like long books, but because I believe it was close to 500 pages. I want to say it was like in the 450 to 500 page range. I listened to it on audio, but it is so worth it. It is so worth it. This is a book I will probably reread every single year because it is so good. And that is the entire lineup of my mysteries and thrillers that are in the 5-star club. 16 books. Let me know if you're gonna add any of these to your TBR. Let me know if you've read any of these books and you hated them. I'm curious to see. I always love to know when I love a book and then someone's like, no, I hated that, it was awful. So let me know how you felt about these books if you've read them, and I can't wait to see you guys next time. Bye.